Welcome, everybody, to the very first podcast, in fact, the introduction podcast to the Authentic Sound podcast. So, we're going to update you on everything, the whole project, the history of the project, the history of the podcast. But first of all, let's introduce ourselves. I'm sitting here with Stefan. Obviously, my name is Wim Winters. For those of you who don't know me, I am an organist, clavichord player, and pianist. I started Authentic Sound in 2014, so more than 10 years ago. It started with the clavichord, then it developed into a tempo reconstruction project. You might know me from this crazy thing like the wholebeat metronome practice, where we actually take the metronome mark, and instead of having one click connected to the note value in the metronome mark, we take two clicks, and we have a whole theory and what have you, and recordings on that. And that developed a tempo reconstruction project, a lot of recordings on the piano forte. We make CDs, LPs. We are working on a book on tempo reconstruction. And in the course of that, I met Stefan, my German friend, joining the project as a project manager, but he's so much more than only that. So Stefan, maybe a few words to introduce you to
Yes,
the people who never heard, don't know who you are.
sure. I mean, we can do that. I mean, if people see the video, they will see a lot, all of the beautiful recordings behind you on your new shelf, which you very proudly built. But yeah, a few words of introduction from me. As you said, I'm from Germany, and we're gonna get into the story of how we met and how this collaboration developed a little bit later. But yeah, I used to play piano before I started working with you. Because now
That's a
I have
good
no
sign.
time anymore. So this is what happens if you start working with this guy from Belgium who's like crazy, who plays everything. Everything he does takes twice as long, So that's why you don't have time for playing music anymore. And yeah, so I played piano for Jesus, probably like 20 years in total. I started with like electric keyboard and then I switched over to piano playing. And I managed to play like one Chopin etude, so that was like the pinnacle. And I also played one Haydn piano concerto. So if you want to know the
Congratulations.
skill level, I managed to reach. Um, but yeah, that was quite fun. And yeah, Wim and I just started collaborating on the project and
You
working on
forgot,
everything that's necessary to get
you
this to
forgot,
as many people as possible, right?
you forgot the most important thing. You studied mathematics.
That's true. I mean, I tend to forget that because I'm not doing anything related to mathematics still. But yes, I studied mathematics. I have a master's degree in mathematics, and yeah, I was going more in the direction of applied mathematics, which comes in handy because I tend to do some data analysis for us as well, right?
Yeah,
Which you don't
absolutely.
like to do.
Let's not talk also about the database. There will be another episode later. So no, it's
Yes.
interesting. So people may ask like, yeah, okay, Wim is kind of professional musician. I hate the word. So how the two of you collaborating? So first thing, like you helped organize all the projects, and we're not going to go too much in detail. Might be for another episode. Who knows? Um, but you are. A musician in the sense that you really understand what's going on, and also that's the reason why you discovered me, so to say, on YouTube, because it all made sense. You became a Patreon of our Patreon page, our Patreon platform, and reached out to me on the moment that I actually asked for help because I was like overwhelmed, and really I was about to, let's say, like didn't know how to proceed because there were too many projects. There was too much on my end. So you actually streamlined and organized, helped organize, and became like more and more involved. We started, and then let's go to the next topic of this introduction podcast. How we started this podcast. I started this podcast, in fact, on Patreon on my own as a solo show,
Yeah.
but soon you said, like I said, like we talked about it in our weekly meetings, like I would like to have a co-host because a podcast with two people is much more interesting. I need like someone also to keep the balance. I'm like used to be to continue to talk all the time. And so then we started to record podcasts on Patreon, which we enjoyed very much doing, but also our patrons love them so much, right?
Yes, so that was cool because as you said, I mean, we met quote unquote through Patreon. And I still remember the desperate cry for help you had because, like, help! I have so much to do. I need like a project manager. You were saying that jokingly, and in my day-to-day work, I work as a project manager. So I thought, well, hell, I'm just gonna write an email. He's probably not gonna be interested because he has so many people reaching out to him because he's so famous. And then I, and then
Think
I got an answer like 2 months later.
really that
Because
long?
I think it took really long. Yeah, it took really long. You were very sorry for that. I remember that, and yeah, then we basically just started talking, and yeah, I helped you streamline, organize everything as you said. It was basically just, yeah, let me get a grip and a grasp on what's actually going on, what is in your mind. I still remember the 18-meter parchment we had when we first met, where you talked about everything that was on your mind, which was a lot. I can tell you that, guys. This guy has so many ideas of new things that we could be doing, and like we could be doing this and this and this, and if we connect this to that, that's so amazing. And yeah, that's a little
I
bit of a problem as well. You know, you have so many ideas that it gets
talk to my
difficult
wife.
to, yeah.
I know what kind of terrible person I am. No, all you just have to
Yeah,
organize and structure that. And then was a huge effort because indeed the 80 meters paper that you filled with like your many colors, I can still remember that. We, by the way, have it still. I mean, I keep that as a souvenir. It was also an important moment. I started our collaboration. And then later, like I said, like, yeah, we started to record these podcasts. And the interesting thing is about this is like we started the podcast in the sense like I made a YouTube video about a certain topic related to temple reconstruction. And you in the podcast challenged that view as
yeah,
much as you can. Good. And so they gave us an opportunity to talk again about that source, but more in depth. YouTube is like this fast medium where you have to create a video, and I'm not fast on YouTube by any stretch of the imagination. Even I try to talk a little bit faster sometimes, but still you can hear that neither of both of us, but English is not our native tongue. But on YouTube, even though that is kind of podcast format, you still are on the surface of the sources that you talk about. And a podcast is so much better as a format to go in depth on these sources. So we exchanged views on the same sources. I explained the questions. I went back to the source. You challenged the view, and that format actually worked very well. We have recorded now for a year on Patreon these podcasts. We're
that long
gonna,
already? Jesus.
I think, even more.
It's already
Um,
a year. I mean,
yeah,
I still remember when we started it. We asked the Patreons what they would like to have in terms of like because we wanted to revamp the platform, and then they said, well, we would like a little bit more in the direction of like musicology and stuff. So you actually started a podcast on your own then,
yeah.
and afterwards we then collaborated and did it with the two of us in the format you said, basically with the YouTube video and so on. But I would not have told you that it's been going on for a year. That long?
It's unbelievable. So therefore, we don't have time to waste.
True.
Time is going faster and faster the older you get. But let's not go into that. That's for another topic of
I mean,
another
for you,
podcast.
time is slower, right? Because you take twice as long for everything because
Yeah, but then
you do everything in whole beat.
you enjoy everything more, and then time goes even faster. So
That's
um,
true.
yeah. So that podcast we have like recorded quite some episodes. We're gonna reuse actually reuse this for the public podcast because that's what we decided. The reaction from our patrons on the podcast that we made was actually so positive. We enjoyed it so much. We were thinking, okay, what kind of topic this podcast should have? And since YouTube became like a center on my channel of temple reconstruction videos, which on YouTube is like not such an easy topic to get together a large audience for YouTube still. They say like you have to niche down, but if you're niching down too much, you are actually not attracting like a lot of new people. On the podcast, that might be different. So what we're going to do in the future is on YouTube, there will be still videos on temple reconstruction, but also more on educational content showing the effect of playing like that. And there is so much that you can share with the audience. So we are thinking of building also an educational platform for it's still too early to say that it's going to happen. We have to test a little bit how deep the water is and see if it works. But on the podcast, we can go like more in a kind of musicology way, if you wish, But even there, we can go very practically. We have made episodes on the pedaling and things like that, where sources come up on all kinds of stuff, and that we want to continue. So there are episodes that we have recorded solely for Patreon that we also gonna publish publicly. But it's not the only thing we're gonna do. So maybe Stefan, we can talk a little bit about the schedule that we plan to have for the next year.
Yes, because we thought about that for a long time, and we were considering different options because we thought like an episode every week that feels like quite a lot because again you have a lot on your plate. I have my main job, so one episode every week felt a lot. But you're actually going to get one episode a week, and that's the magic of having things pre-recorded. And we just thought just before we started this podcast, what actually do we have pre-recorded? And we actually found quite a lot that is of high quality. So it's definitely publishable. And that's also interesting in terms of content. So that's what we decided to do basically. So we're going to start the podcast, of course, with an introductory episode to tell you guys, like, who are we? What the hell are we going to do here? But we then also said, well, let's reuse the podcasts we produced on Patreon because Patreons are going to get early access to the episode. So they got now very, very early access.
Yeah.
It's like they knew it before it was there. That early was the access that they have on Patreon. And so we are basically going to alternate a newly recorded podcast with an existing episode, and you're also going to have like a little intro that tells you that this is a pre-recorded episode. We want to be very transparent about that because I mean maybe some people give us feedback on what they would like to have different, but if the episode has been recorded a year ago, because apparently we started recording these a year ago, well, we are not going to be able to change anything about the format in that specific episode. So that's why we want to be very transparent. And yeah, so that's going to be starting in the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's basically going to be newly recorded episode, existing episode. You will know which one is which because probably also in the beginning my audio was trash before I got this beautiful microphone. So you might be able to hear that it was an old episode, but you will get notified in the beginning that it was an old episode. And we also have beautiful discussions you and Alberto had on the
Yeah.
Beethoven symphonies. We spent a lot of time recording these episodes, so these will come out as well. Um, as of yet, they are part of our full Beethoven experience, so the largest kind of bundle of products that we have. But we thought they are worth your time listening because they speak about also how do you listen to music that's played twice as slow, which it is not, by the way. But how do you listen to music that's played in whole beat? Because it's different. You kind of have to listen out for different things. You have to hear, listen to it differently, experience. You will experience it differently. And you do a very good job in these episodes where you talk about the Beethoven symphonies because that was back then the biggest project we ever had. That we
Yeah.
recorded all the Beethoven symphonies in the Czerny forehand transcription on your beautiful piano. And most importantly, we even found people who sang the Ninth Symphony and they didn't suffocate in the meantime. So that was
Mhm.
also a very
Yeah.
good thing. They are still alive and they still want to record music with us, which is very good. So you're also going to get these episodes. And I don't
Maybe.
even remember what's also going to be out, but there's going to be probably some more episodes that we find.
Yeah, maybe as a just in between, for the people that are new here, they might not know who Alberto is. So Alberto Sana is my partner in crime, so to say, at the piano.
Yeah,
We met like in 2020. I'm so bad in date, 20
I think 20.
or 19 even. I have to think because it was in the year. Anyways, around that period, it was before COVID. Anyways, he knocked on my door. Alberto is a very talented pianist from Italy. At a very young age, he started to play piano. Was actually a child prodigy in that sense. He was sent to the United States to not a very known university, Colburn. It's not known because it's a private university. It's very elite, so to say,
Hmm.
and was fully funded by the government actually. But he saw one of the videos that I made like Chopin's etudes in real authentic tempo, something like that.
Yeah,
Very
the
provocative.
revolutionary etude.
Yeah.
He
And
saw
he
that.
immediately wanted to talk to me. So he basically um, said goodbye to Los Angeles and that fancy school after his bachelor, came to Belgium, actually to Berlin first. We started to collaborate, recorded all the Beethoven sonatas. I did 16, he did 16. And then this project just developed into something that now is like we have the symphonies, as you were saying. He is now working on the full Beethoven keyboard work, so recording everything of Beethoven in. At the end, it will be. We were yesterday or the day before. He was recording CD number 7, I think, from that for the second box, which was a Waldstein, by the way, the Waldstein sonata. And I mean, I have to say, like the music, the player, and the piano. I mean, it's unbelievable what an effect this sonata gives on that instrument. So, and we were talking about how many CDs it would be for the next box. It probably will be close to 30 CDs that we produce only for the Beethoven keyboard works. And now we released this green box, the Chopin, 5 CDs with the edges and things like that. So Alberto is like a huge element, I would say, if I can talk about him like that in the project, because he was or he is a pianist that you can ask to play Rachmaninoff 3 if you want, and he just
Hmm.
can do that just from with this technical skill and his ability to adapt that to the pianoforte, which is not given to everybody. It's a complete different instrument. Um, so that allows him to record a lot of music,
Hmm.
or he's doing basically the keyboard solo things now. I'm focusing more on clavichord, and we will talk about that in the future. So, in the context of that, indeed, as you said, we recorded this listening guide to Beethoven symphonies and wholebeat, which is, I think, primarily we did it for ourselves. We was very well prepared as well. For that reason only, we want to have it public. Actually, we wanted that from the very first day we recorded this as a kind of yeah, like it was a part of the package, as you say, like the full Beethoven experience. But the main thing of the full Beethoven experience is still the notation course, like
Hmm.
72 lessons, which may be a little bit too much in depth. I realized that afterwards. I spent like how many months working on that?
Don't
Many.
get me going on that one.
And in fact, yeah, the feedback we get from people is positive, but like
Hmm.
it's difficult stuff. So maybe we won't want to make another one there. But the listening guide, we're going to publish that. On top of that, we have some videos, Alberto and I, some podcasts that we recorded on Beethoven in a general way, like I think
Hmm.
when we launched the Kickstarter. And we did also one for Chopin, which was, and every time we talked with him, it's like an interesting conversation. It's a little bit of a different accent because there we have two musicians, I would say, that know the piano, know the music, than with you. But we will have episodes with where Alberto's joining the two of us, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have no clear plan, but we are gonna find possibilities to talk also with him. And yeah, it was a good shout actually by you to introduce him because we are so used to talking with him and about him that we tend to forget that people who come new to this podcast, they will not know who the hell Alberto is. So yeah, it's the guy who plays Prokofiev for fun, but also Beethoven twice as slow. Uh, so
And Chopin, I mean, it's unbelievable. I was there when he was. No, I wasn't actually there. We were on holiday. I just witnessed his first recordings, and I stayed for the entire week. So he recorded 5 CDs in 1 week. Eh?
yeah, this
Cool.
I mean the skill he has is it's insane.
And that's the thing, of course, people say, and take just a few minutes for people who are new here. So like this whole beat thing and playing slower. You might have heard about this elsewhere, but not never went into the details. And we will
Yep.
not go into the details here, but just as a quick note, people, there are several reasons why people actually uh, respond so emotionally to this. Not
Hmm.
factually, because factually also, I'm now preparing the last parts of the book. There is nothing you can bring in against the existence of whole beat. The reality in the 19th century had to be of such absurd proportions if single beats or modern use of the metronome was still in place, that we would never be able, and we will never be able to replicate that as human beings. So That's impossible. The speeds that you have to accomplish, and not only the speeds, the difficulties in combination with the speeds. And we may admire those 19th century musicians or composers that allegedly could do all of that, but they couldn't. And so
Mhm.
that's the naked truth. And of course, I understand that's not so easy to absorb and to accept, because we are all raised in a certain way. We have our habits, we have our listening habits, we have our attachment to the music in the way the music is for us, like meant to be played. So all of that I understand. But people say often like yeah, when you play everything in half speed, which I should say it is not really true, because we seldom really reach that so-called single beat speed, then everything becomes like laughably easy, and then Chopin etude is not a Chopin etude anymore. Well, that depends, because I challenge 97%, I mean, I make this up, of you listening right now to try to play Chopin whole beat. So with the metronome ticks, but then take, right, you have the back and forth of the metronome instead of every tick. And just to try it, I bet 97% of you still cannot play that, because it is really difficult. But if you have someone who was trained at an elite level, also in Brussels, he got his masters with Jan Michiels, and that person travels back 100 years in time, let's say almost 200 years in time. Guess what happens with this evolved technique? He can play a Chopin etude rather easily. There is no doubt about that. And
Yeah, I
so
mean, you
for
you
these
tell the
top,
story a lot. Sorry.
so for the, I'm wrapping up. So for these top pianists, it's become like, of course, Chopin is not a challenge anymore. Chopin is an updated Kramer Clementi etude. It's way less complex than Liszt and all the other composers that, like in the 19th century, really introduced the virtuosity. But Chopin isn't easy by any stretch of the imagination for the majority of pianists, even professional ones, in whole beat. So
Yeah.
just that as
Yeah.
a side story here.
I mean, I can attest to that. As I said in my introduction, I managed to play exactly one Chopin etude, and only in whole beat. I didn't manage to play it faster, and I was struggling even to do that. And I mean, I played for quite a long time. I mean, I never went into practicing that much, but still, I mean, I can tell you it's not easy to play these in whole beat. I mean, of course, as you say, if you come from a level that is so far beyond what these people back then could do, and then if you go back, it seems very simple, and it feels like practicing tempo, which it is, of course, for today's pianists. But yeah, that doesn't change the fact that that music is still difficult to be played. But the beautiful thing that also happens if you play music at that tempo, it becomes way more accessible. I mean, I could play Beethoven sonatas at that tempo. Maybe I could even play some.
Not the Hammerklavier, those,
No, no,
Stefan.
no, no, no. I'm not talking about all of these, but I mean, I could play some Beethoven sonatas, and
Yeah, sure.
I could enjoy playing them and not practice for 3 years to manage to play these at the very high speed. Probably I couldn't play the Hammerklavier, as you very rightly say, but I don't know. I mean, there could be some of these that would be possible to be played, and that's why this is so beautiful, because it makes the music of these composers so much more accessible.
Yeah.
Also Mozart. I mean, I remember one of the Mozart sonatas. I think it was like a D major sonata. Don't get me asking which. I have no idea, but there was like, I remember the section. There was a fragment that was like 16 bars or something, just straight 16th notes in the right hand, and I couldn't manage to play through it without making a mistake in it. And I was getting anxious the moment I arrived at their place, because I knew I was not going to be able to play it at that speed. Well, I could probably do it in whole beat with a little bit of practice, and I would enjoy doing it. And that's what makes this whole whole beat thing so amazing, is that
Mhm.
on the one hand, you get to be able to play a lot more things, even as a lesser skilled pianist. You get to enjoy the music while you play it. And even if you don't play this yourself, if you listen to this music, and I mean, I can tell the story now or in a different time. I don't know if I told it in one of the earlier podcasts, um, but I got into classical music quite late, and I got into it well, basically by accident because I changed piano teacher when I started my mathematics study, and I basically played only modern music that, it sounds good. It sounds very pleasurable. It's easy to listen to. And he threw me like head first into the Pathetic Sonata first movement, which doesn't sound very happy and very good, It's very beautiful, but it's not what you're used to if you, yeah, listen to, how shall I say that, like today's radio or the music that is composed today. And yeah, I still remember that I was struggling with that for a really long time. And while I was doing that, I was also listening to some classical music. And I still remember that when I started listening to the Chopin concertos, the piano concertos, I heard nothing. It sounded like blah, 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 blah. I didn't hear anything. It sounded like a big mush of sound. And the longer I listened to it, the more I started to understand the music and I started listening at, oh, like here is a beautiful line and here is a beautiful line and here is this and here is that. Especially the fast movements, it was very difficult. I mean, the slow movements, not to get into it too deep, but the slow movements of Chopin are actually played a lot of times still in whole beat. So that's so cool. But I remember that if you get into classical music now, the hurdle is very big because you have to start to understand what's going on. And the people that have experienced a lot of classical music in their life, they kind of know what's coming and they expect that the thing is coming. But if you're new to it and you're not trained to listen to it, that's such a different experience because you don't hear shit. Let's say it like this. It just sounds like a bunch of notes that's like doing something, and yeah, you hear a little bit of like the pulse moving forward, but it's difficult to understand and to internalize what's going on, to hear the emotion in the music. And if you play in whole beat, that changes completely. Because if you start, for example, the Fifth Symphony in whole beat or the Ninth Symphony, it's like you understand from the first moment what the hell is going on, where the composer wants to lead you, and you can experience the emotion from the very beginning. And that's such an amazing thing, and that's why whole beat is it's such an eye opener for everyone, for the people who play it, for the people who listen to it. It's such a different experience. And yeah, I mean, I can only advise people to check out the recordings we have and then experience it for themselves.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story. And actually, it's very interesting. It's also why it's so interesting to have you here in the center of this podcast, because it gives a fresh start in the sense like you experienced this Chopin concerto as people might have experienced back then. And so there is a whole episodes that we can make to find the reason and to explain it, why it is that you just heard a blur of notes. Let's not do that here, but it's the main point of why we are doing this, because the beauty that you unlock while playing like that, it might be a shock for people that know classical music very well. The Fifth Beat Symphony from Beethoven, talking to a colleague of mine a week, 2 weeks ago. I'm not saying who it is, but I gave him Beethoven 5 on CD last year, and he was talking to me. So like, I listened immediately. It was like, I was shocked. I mean, but the second time I listened, he said, I started to understand the music. And the third time I enjoyed it very much. But that's, of course, many people that do not know me or don't want to give this project a chance or the recordings that just block immediately from hearing the first note because it's not what they used to hear. And on top of that, it's not just a tryout or an interpretation. There is a philosophy behind that. We are claiming like this at least is the tempo that Beethoven had in mind. So there is also an emotional provocation there, like, hey, you better listen to this like this because that's what Beethoven had in mind. Now, we cannot do anything about that, but th- it's part of the reason that classical music is so hard to get to find new people to enjoy that. It's exactly what you describe. And the other way around is as well true. Like I said, like the Hammerklavier Sonata is for very few people, even a whole beat. The Hammerklavier Sonata is way more difficult than the Chopin Etude. Don't say that in public because people will kill me for that, but it's just true. And in whole beat is still like a very difficult piece. Playing like that is difficult. You have to learn a new language. new type of accentuation of touch, using the pedal, what Alberto does, like just the pedal, and Chopin recordings, just the pedaling, where Chopin indicates a pedal. We just record an episode per Patreon. We're gonna launch it here as well publicly. But I mean, all of these things together, it's changing so much. So we will need time to get people along in this journey, and we will do that. And go back to the podcast and what people can expect. So in this year, we're gonna have, so every other week, a freshly recorded podcast with two of us or with Alberto. There might be, we think about that. We have no plans to achieve that. We might invite guests in the future. That would be really cool. That we talk about music, about something that he or she accomplished in the past or recording or whatever, but always from this notion like the WBMP is always on the table. We will always talk about that. We will have an exchange of thoughts about that, how to apply it or not to apply it, why you should, why you don't. That would be really cool. And let us know if you really would like us to do that, because that might be something in the future that really we develop doing that. And then for the first year, as you said at the beginning, we will have an episode every week, one every other, a freshly recorded episode done every other week, or a pre-recorded episode that we introduce, or an episode of a podcast that I recorded with Alberto. And then maybe, Stefan, it's important to also inform people like where to find us. This episode will go on YouTube full, just as an introduction episode, but we are not going to keep doing that in the future. So maybe you can say a few words, how we organize this thing, what platforms do we use, and how everything is actually the ecosystem of authentic sound, so to say, is coming together in this.
So the difficult part you leave to me, that's what I understand.
Hey, you're a project manager for something, right?
Sure, I better know what's going on. I better know what's going on. You see, guys, this is how it works every time. I mean, he just says, you better know that you're the project manager, so now go do it. Now I have to figure this out. No, but it makes sense. So the platform of choice that we upload the podcast to, that's Substack. So if people have a Substack account and they're listening to it now on Substack, maybe even, they can go subscribe there for real. And if they go to the higher tier level on Substack, they will be able to get the video podcast. So again, it will be a podcast of just audio usually, but there are two exceptions to that. So there is the subscription that people could go to on Substack, and there is also the possibility to go to Patreon. On Patreon, you will get a lot more behind the scenes. So that's basically if you like the podcast, if you like what we do, then you could check out Patreon, because there's basically more of this, just in detail and in different areas, you could say. So on Patreon, we have behind the scenes, we have the insiders updates where we talk about all the projects, what's going on in each project. And also we have concerts that you play. There is some practicing sessions of you and so much more. So people can go over to Patreon and check that out. And what we will do, the video podcast on Substack and on Patreon will be early access. So if people want to have early access to these episodes, they can go and check it out there. So we will find a way to do that. And of course, on YouTube, there is going to be a segment of the podcast. So these newly recorded episodes, they are going to go on YouTube definitely. And we're going to just use a part of it, like 15, 20 minutes, something in that range, so that people can get a glimpse of what is it like to have us talking. And yeah, again, YouTube is our biggest audience right now. So we also want to give these people a hint that there is a podcast coming up. They can start listening to it already.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is for podcasts, I know that myself, everyone has their platform of listening to podcasts. And that's where Substack comes in, because it's not only that you have to listen to it on Substack, but there will be the possibility to listen to it on the usual platforms. We'll be working on that. So let me call them out, like the Spotify's, the Apple Podcasts. I don't know what else people use. We have to set this up, of course, but we will manage to do that. So You can listen to us on whichever platform you like. So you can listen to us on Substack. You can even go to Patreon if you want some additional content that goes in a similar direction. You can listen to us on YouTube, partially at least, or you go to the usual platforms like the Spotify's, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are used to listening to podcasts.
See,
How did you like my summary?
that's why I ask you to summarize this. I know you're doing so much a better job than I could ever do in this. So there is
Thank
nothing
you.
that I have to add to that. I mean, it's fully complete. We were
Good.
supposed to. The only thing we were supposed to wear like is a hoodie with authentic sound. People might be laughing now, and your T-shirt with authentic sound, but not yet arrived. So we are taking this
No.
very serious level, even with merch. Um, no, it's just something that we decided when you came over to my place in the summer. Hey, let's have a T-shirt with authentic sound. Why wouldn't we have that? And indeed, why wouldn't we have that? And we actually ordered it. It's not yet here, and so actually people will be able to buy one themselves in the future.
We will
You
see. I mean, there's a lot of ideas we have, and that was one of
Yeah.
these.
So no, this well, I think we can wrap this introduction podcast because before we start talking about the details of wholebeat again, because that's very dangerous.
It's
Um,
dangerous to get Wim started talking about that, you know, because then he will at the moment he starts on a specific source, then he comes to the book, and then it's end, you know, then we are here for 3 hours
yeah.
because he can
So
talk about different sources like for 3 hours straight.
but let us know in the comments where you're listening. We have no idea how that works. Probably Substack has a comment section. YouTube, certainly this episode, as I say, will go in full on YouTube. Let us know what you think of the idea, whether you want me to talk 3 hours straight on the book of sources or not. Or you have ideas what we can talk about, what would you like us to talk about? We can definitely take that into consideration because at the end, we want to make this podcast for you. Even though we enjoy, Stefan and I know when Alberto is joining, we enjoy talking. All the three of us enjoy talking a lot. We have a lot to say, so to say, quote unquote. But at the end, it's of course what you all would like us to talk about. And so we're not going to talk about coffee machines because then Stefan is going to
That's
talk
my
for
3 hours
3 hours.
straight talking topic, by the way, guys. Yes.
Let's make a coffee a podcast then and then. But anyways, we're not going to talk about gardening or whatever. It has to be something in relation to whole beat and of course the clavichord or historical performance practice if you want. But let us know. Think about it, and we are here to serve you in the first place. So
Yeah. And
thank
it
you.
was also important for us to have like every other week a newly recorded episode because otherwise people are going to give us feedback on an episode that's maybe a year old and we are not going to be able to respond to that or it has changed in the meantime. So that's where we said, let's publish like every other episode is as a newly recorded so we can listen and we can respond to the feedback that we get. And I mean, maybe people want us to talk 3 hours straight on musicology or coffee machines. Maybe that's all people want. Maybe they also don't want one of us in the podcast. Maybe that's also the feedback we get. It's like, yeah, the podcast would be way better if there was no women in it, you know, or there was no Stefan in it. I mean, maybe
I
that
would
would be
support
cool.
that idea of eliminating me immediately. That gives me more time. For instance, now the sun is shining on Saturday morning. I could work a little bit in my garden, and Anya, my wife, would be very happy. So, guys, if you want to eliminate me and just have Stefan in the podcast, by all means, we create
Do
a
it.
vote for that, and the majority, I will follow it. No, all jokes apart, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening or watching this podcast. Thank you for supporting us, whether it is on Substack or on Patreon or elsewhere, by just supporting us through the Kickstarters that we have or the projects that are recording that we launch, because that helps us keep going. Because there is a lot responsibility also in this project. We're not the only ones talking about wholebeat, but we're about the only ones that talk in wholebeat in the way that we are doing, and produce all these. Products, whether it is a recording, whether it is the book that will be coming up, and trying to promote it. And let's say, kind of professional way. That's like a weird way of saying that we try to do our best. So thank you for being here and supporting all of that. And we will hear each other, not see each other in the majority of the cases, probably again very much. We will hear each other very soon again. Bye.
Bye.